mornings.
Good morning. Our headlines for you at 6 o'clock. The government's controversial illegal migration bill is finally set to become law after overcoming challenges in the Lords as a barge that will house hundreds of asylum seekers arrives in Dorset.
Good morning, I'm in Portland. This will be the first place in the UK to house asylum seekers on a barge like that, and it is now just a few miles off the coast here. It's due to arrive in the next hour or so, but it has been controversial before anybody steps aboard, and there are further protests planned this morning.
Europe's extreme heat wave brings wildfires to Greece as temperatures in the central Mediterranean region are expected to peak.
But that heat remains a long way from us here in the UK at the moment. In fact, for some today, it's going to be a rather cloudy, wet and cool day. I'll have your full forecast.
More than 100 McDonald's workers tell the BBC about a toxic culture of sexual assault, harassment, racism and bullying at the company's UK restaurants.
Good morning. In the sport, England turn to their old-timer at Old Trafford for their make-or-break Ashes test. It's home from home for Jimmy Anderson, and so England will be hoping that gives them the edge when the fourth test starts tomorrow.
So let's have a look at the newspapers and a couple of today's front pages, including the Daily Mail, leading on scientists calling the new Alzheimer's drug a turning point in the fight against the disease. Now, we spoke about this on the programme yesterday because trial results show that it can slow symptoms by 60% in the early stages, but it's all about catching it early.
Daily Mirror leads on a story about recently announced plans to close railway ticket offices. Paper calls it Tory train scandal and includes a warning from Labour mayors who say train companies will be taken to court unless they put an immediate stop to the plans.
Well, the Telegraph, it's got an interview with the Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, who spoke ahead of the release of the UK government's Defence Command paper. It is overwhelming focus on the lessons that can be learnt from the war in Ukraine.
And a piece from the BBC News website that is also in several of the papers this morning. Look at that. That is a mysterious, unidentified dome that has washed up on a West Australian beach. The Australian Space Agency said it was possible the giant cylinder could have fallen from a foreign space launch vehicle.
It's really hard to tell there how big it is.
Yes.
It looks either like a pan or it could be like a massive thing off the nose of a space shuttle.
It did look a little bit like a pan.
Yeah. Maybe that's all it is.
Maybe it is, yeah.
If I've identified it after all. Look, you know, if you're trying to change your phone and you think, oh, it's quite expensive to buy a new phone, and they seem to get more and more expensive, don't they? Well, one went on auction yesterday. It was the first edition of the iPhone, Apple's iPhone. And can you believe it was 2007? It was the first iPhone. So then sold for about 450 quid. Oh. Sold at auction yesterday for £145,000.
Wow.
Because nearly 400 times its original value, so says the paper. And it was at an auction in the US, and it was expected to sell for about 50,000, but went for 145,000.
Still in the box and never used.
Oh, that it doesn't say, actually.
I wonder.
Oh, no, you're right. Virtually flawless. I should have read all the way through. Virtually flawless.
I was just guessing.
Factory seal is clean.
Yes.
And, yes, it's legit. So.
I bet you a lot of people have got old, battered ones that probably aren't worth quite so much.
But well-loved and well-used.
Yes.
They did change the way we think about phones,
They
didn't
did,
So.
yeah.
Through this morning's front pages then. Let's start with the Telegraph. It's leading with Defence Secretary Ben Wallace saying the UK will pay for more tanks but not more troops to help Ukraine in its fight against Russia. The Eye reports on the discovery of a drug which is believed it could slow the progress of Alzheimer's disease if caught early and may be available on the NHS as soon as 2025. Well, The Guardian says there's heavy pressure to get the drug approved and onto the market as soon as possible. Well, the Mail calls the drug a turning point in the fight against the disease. And The Times leads with the same story in their headline, It's a New Era. The FT says Microsoft will be investigated by the EU after claims they bundled their Teams app with Office software and are abusing their dominant position in the market. And just shove off. The Metro leads on one man taking on Just Stop Oil protesters in London. And The Sun reports that TV personality Melanie Skykes has self-identified as suffering from Tourette syndrome. And The Star has a story about hackers vowing to uncover the truth about UFOs and aliens. And if you want to see any of those front pages again or read the stories, scan the QR code on the screen.